how to start this. So I think we all know that there are some people who move through life pretty comfortably just on the surface, right? Just flowing with the current, taking it nice and easy, staying real, just surface and simple. And that's great. But other people, perhaps you, feel things really deeply. They notice things, they find patterns, and they recognize systems around them. They understand a little bit more on a more foundational level how the world works, and they've thought about that, right? They've intuited things about society and about our individual a place in society and the way that we're kind of conditioned to be a part of the world. And they've thought about these things, they've noticed them, and they've thought a little bit more in depth about themselves. And if that's you, which I'm guessing it might be if you're watching this video, then this video is for you because you are like me. We are the same. And yeah, the world can feel a bit different for you. You can feel like you're having a very different experience being someone out in the world than almost all of the people around you. And that can be difficult. So yeah, this video is for the people who feel like they are deeper than the world around them. So if that's you, you are someone who probably doesn't want to just stay on the surface level when it comes to conversations and relationships in the subject matter that you're allowed to broach in public when you're around people, the things that you examine and investigate in life, the things that you're interested in, right? You might just really naturally lean towards things that are a bit deeper and more complex. You probably want real conversations with people, right? You probably want to have real connections with the people in your lives. You're not looking to just talk about the weather or what the local sports team was doing or other more sort of just mundane stuff. You're looking to form real connections. When you have conversations with people, you're really hoping that you'll be able to delve a little bit deeper and get into some subjects that are a little bit meatier and more interesting to you, things that have a little bit of a larger relevance to the world and to humanity and history or psychology, just like these sort of different topics that aren't just your general, coffee table talk type of conversations, but those are the type of things that you're interested in having. They're the type of things that you explore when you are picking books to read or your special interests when you're out in the world trying to take part in society. You might naturally gravitate towards things that are more like this. And when you're looking for people in your life, you would love to have people really see you for you and really sort of connect to that part of you. You're looking for people who understand what that's like to be a really curious, open-minded person who is interested in learning about the world around them, about how society functions, about what human beings at our deepest levels are all about our behavior and why we do the things we do. You have questions about so many things that you want to find the answers to. That deep curiosity, that want for knowledge, that want to understand things at a more systemic level, to have a bit of a higher perspective on life and the world, that is something that's actually a little bit more unique than you would think. I know, I would think that like everyone is thinking like this all the time just because that's how I think and that's how I've always thought. I've always just had this insane natural curiosity. I've wanted to explore all of this stuff and look at things from this really big perspective and understand, and understand life and people and why we are the way we are and like why do we function this way in our society? Why am I supposed to be like this instead of that? Like why is it acceptable to do this thing and not be that way? Those are the things that I question and think about a lot. And I feel like as an intuitive person also, I have a lot of sort of deeper feelings that just feel right to me about the way society should function and the way it does function. And I can really see the differences when I look at the patterns and the way we live affects people. And then of course, just examining in my own life how that's affected me. There aren't a lot of people that I know in my actual life who I could sit down and explain this to and who would be like, yeah, me too. Exactly. Like, and then like dive into a conversation about anthropology and like systems theory and like all history and all of this cool stuff. I would love to have those conversations. I would love to have those relationships with people and other people who understand me on that level in my life. But that's actually a pretty hard thing to find. And that can be really hard sometimes. It can be isolating and it can be lonely. And it can make you think like, this is something maybe about me that's different in a way that doesn't mesh with a lot of the rest of the society around me, right? Doesn't really mesh with the people in my life or my family, or, you know, you can just feel like it's just something that's wrong with you, that sets you outside from the norm in a way that is going to make it much harder for you in life to be a part of the society, right? And to have people in your life. Sometimes it can feel kind of hopeless in a way, like you're never gonna, you know, be able to just like be you in all of your glory, you know, like being that you out in the world, who doesn't have to like put yourself in a little box to make yourself smaller, or shy away from talking about these type of things, or questioning things when you're in environments where no one is questioning something that you can obviously see should be questioned. And that can be a pretty hard way to go through life, right? I'm beginning to find more and more people resonating with this, which is why I'm talking about it on my channel more, because this is something that I have always felt on a pretty deep level. And I've found that even though earlier on in life, I felt like there weren't many people who were around me who were like this, who would have understood and who saw the world in a similar way. Now I'm beginning to understand that there are actually quite a lot of us. And that's exciting. So that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because I want to make sure that you know, if that sounds like you and if you are resonating with what I'm feeling, that this is not something wrong with you. You are made differently from certain people. Not everyone, right? Like there are a lot of people who are built this way. There are certain differences in the way that we are sort of built to function, cognitively, maybe physiologically, maybe life experience wise, that sort of lend us to this perspective and this way of thinking. And it's not a bad thing. I know for me personally, I'm an ADHDer, late diagnosed ADHDer right here. Hey. So I, you know, have that juicy, beautiful neurodivergent mind that is less likely to sort of believe everything I'm told at face value, to look at society and the sort of rules and boxes that we've put people in and decided this is how we're supposed to live, and told people that's how you're supposed to live, and just accept that, right? There is something about the way that neurodivergent minds think differently from neurotypical people that allows us to sort of see around the corners of those societal structures to say, actually, like, I see what this is, but like, I don't understand why I have to play along with it. Like that's the core question that a lot of people who have this, you know, mind that thinks a little bit differently are confronted with all the time. Why do I have to do this like everyone else? Why do I have to do that? It doesn't technically make sense to me in my mind why I would have to do things the way that the other people do them if it doesn't work for me, or if it's not what I want, or if it doesn't feel right to me. And this is actually like a really great thing that we have people whose minds think this way, because without people who are able to see the world from that perspective that is a little bit outside of itself, those are the people who can see the patterns between things, the systems that we're operating under that may need to change or shift or introduce new things to help us work better. And so this is where a lot of innovation comes from. I'm personally completely convinced that a ton of the biggest innovators in America, in the world's history, have been people who are nonlinear, neurodivergent people whose brains were pattern seeking, who were really good at problem solving and putting a lot of things together and seeing things from a really wide perspective, which is just, you know, sort of a gift and a skill set that a lot of people have when their brains are programmed this way. And because of that, they are less likely to be susceptible to societal programming, right? So all of the things when you're growing up that you're told you're supposed to be, you're shown this is the model of how to be a human who's acceptable to society. You have to come wrapped in this package, right? But the, people who are non-traditional and non-linear thinkers and folks whose brains don't as easily accept what they're told without question, usually because they have, a way of critical thinking that just doesn't allow them to accept things without question. These are the people who are seeing these things that need to be changed in society. And I think that's a pretty great thing. But it's also tough because sometimes you can kind of see the dynamics of things that are going to be playing out sort of in advance of when they do. So getting into social situations can be tricky because you can kind of see certain dynamics and the potential there for them to play out. And it might make it harder for you to connect with people because you kind of already see the strings that are pulling at people. And it can be hard to kind of see how you can fit yourself in and then also like be acceptable to people without calling out those things, to be like, oh, well, actually, like, did you notice that this was happening with that person? Because it obviously is. That can be the type of thing that isn't, super great in social settings for smoothing your road with people, right? If you're calling things out as you see them and other people may not be like ready to hear that yet, or maybe they just haven't put these things together, they didn't know. And so you can be a little bit confronting with people sometimes, and that can be a little bit difficult when you're looking to, make inroads and bond with people and make friends and make yourself seem like, yeah, I'm like a cool person to be friends with. Like, I'm not going to call people out on their bullshit. I'm not going to, make it obvious who's doing this to who, or that someone's not doing what they really should be doing because they're trying to please other people. Like, it's sometimes so easy to see those things. And it's hard sometimes to like bite your tongue when you feel like you just need to be honest and say things when you're around people that you probably shouldn't say. But when your brain kind of works like that, it can become such a sticking point. A lot of folks have a hard time not speaking honestly and straightforwardly when they see and feel and intuit things like that. But in social settings and in larger social groups full of, all different types of people, that can be unwelcome. And so there's, certain ways and places where having that type of, critical thinking perspective, that nonlinear, nonconformist, not accepting the bullshit that everyone is peddling to you or telling everyone they should be like type of mind just doesn't necessarily fit in and can actually cause problems for you when it comes to your social relationships. So you can start questioning yourself, like, am I being too intense? Am I overthinking things? Am I saying things I shouldn't say in front of people? And like, why can't I just be normal and talk about the weather like a normal person and not ask questions of society when they're telling us all this bullshit? And sometimes, you can just get really intense really quick and then blame yourself afterwards if it doesn't go over well with the people that you're around. And that can be something that makes it incredibly easy for you to shrink yourself and hide yourself away in the future when you're in these situations, because you just know that perhaps it won't go over well if you are just yourself and if you're allowing your brain to do what your beautiful brain does and ask questions and point things out and make larger connections between things and seeing patterns where you can say, actually, I think this is because of that. And other people are just not ready for those conversations yet. And that's okay. It can be such a hard dynamic to understand without making it about shortcomings in yourself when you're trying to compare yourself to the people around you, if they are not on the same wavelength and if you're just sort of coming, into it from these two kind of different worlds. And neither of them are wrong. Some people just aren't ready to ask deep questions of life yet, or at all while they're here, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a life where you're not extremely deeply introspective about everything. That can come with its own host of burdens as well, right? Like, my mind doesn't stop ever. I'm always in this like crazy level of introspection about life and about my life. And living with that mental load all the time can be so taxing and tiring sometimes. And I often wish, like, oh my God, I wish I could just stop for a little bit. I wish I could just put it away and stop thought spiraling and hyper focusing and not being able to like just be a part of the normal world, like just go out and have a day where I'm not worried about anything and I'm not thinking deep about anything and I'm just like la di da di da, life is so great. Not to say that I don't think life is great. I do, and I often enjoy life, but my enjoyment of life is often tempered by the intensity in my mind, overthinking and analyzing everything. And sometimes I feel like it would be so much more peaceful if I could just have like a simple life where I just think about the things that are right in front of me on any given day, and what I want to eat for dinner that night, and what I'm going to do on the weekend with my friends, and like what looks I want to create for my capsule wardrobe this spring. Those type of things are fun, and it's not a bad thing to have those type of thoughts and to be someone whose life sort of revolves around those type of just simple decisions and your day-to-day life and what's in front of you. That's okay. But the truth is that I can't be another way from how I am. I can't stop the way my brain works. I can't, I can't put my mind away and just sort of like take it off for an afternoon so I could enjoy myself doing something simple. We have pockets of that in our lives. I'm able to like sit and read a book and enjoy a fictional novel. And that's always like a great reprieve for my brain from my normal state. But like I can't turn it off all the time, right? It's just how I am. It's how I'm made, and it's how my brain works, and that's just how it is. I just have to accept that a lot of the time I am going to be making my way through the world with a deeper level of awareness than a lot of the people around me. I'm the one, I'm just, if there are questions to be asked, I will probably be asking them. I'm going to be curiously reacting to the world around me and the things that I see and experience. And I can't change it, so I accept it, and I love those things about myself, despite the fact that it is challenging sometimes to be like this. It can definitely make you feel like you're the odd one out, because with awareness comes questioning the things that you see that a lot of other people accept, and you can't accept them, right? Understanding the long arc of history that informs how you see the world. If you're someone who knows more about history, like me, I have a master's degree in anthropology, and I have a degree in ancient history. Like I know a lot about human history, how we have developed as a species from our very, very, very early days to where we are now, and what the trajectory of that looked like, how we developed our social systems and our the way that the rules of society function in terms of how different cultures and people throughout history have defined the rules of their society for themselves. And so I see that extremely clearly when I look around the world and I look at our society and the one that I live in and how we function. And so for me, I can never just wake up and accept and say, okay, well, our government says this is what is good and what we've got to do, and everyone's just got to, toe the line and suck it up and just do it because that's what they say is good for us. Like, I will never be someone who can accept that, because I understand the immense fallibility that is possible in our social systems, our governments, and the way that they have been developed to function. Because I know throughout history that so much of our society and governments and social systems are built on infrastructures that are based in imbalance and a ruling social elite that does not care about the lower classes and the power dynamics of that situation. And so when I look at things like government, that's what I see. I can't help but see it. And so I'm naturally cautious when it comes to things like government and social systems, and I am a non-traditional when it comes to a lot of the ways that we are told by our society that we are supposed to function, because I don't see the actual value in it. I see what they think the value in it is for them, but not for me. And I understand that there's a difference between those two things, right? And so when you're someone who can, sort of come with whatever perspective you bring to the table and see things in a way that other people don't see them, it can make you feel so different and like you're actually almost insane for being the one who can see things when so many other people don't see them, or they're just blind to it, or they just believe whatever they see on the surface, and they accept the easiest answer to be true. And it can be so frustrating to have to live in society where you're surrounded by people who think that way and who don't question things the way that you question things, and they aren't curious to find out and to look at things deeper and to see truths that maybe you have seen in order to understand things better so they can have a better perspective on them. It can honestly make you feel like you're an insane person sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I'm an insane person because I'm just like, how do people not see this? But why would people see things in the same way that I see them if they are not me, if they don't have my brain, if they don't have my background, my education, my trajectory in life, my experiences, all of the things that come into who I am and how I see the world and interpret it. I can't ever expect other people to see it the exact same way as me, right? So it's difficult, but sometimes those type of perspectives are what you have to kind of adopt in order to have grace and understanding for the way that other people see the world, if it is so much different from yours. And especially if it's one of these things that like the general, society at large have always believed and done and accepted and sort of just plowed along with without question. When you see the inherent, problem or issues with that, but no one else does, that can be maddening. And it can also make you feel bad. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm judging the rest of the world. I don't want to feel like I'm judging my family who don't see these things, or my friends, or anyone else, who's out there who doesn't see it the way I do. It makes me feel like I sound really elitist. And I really try not to be like that. I try not to ever bring like that, that judgment to it, but it's still there. And so it's important to still acknowledge that these type of dynamics are there and can be felt and internalized really deeply when you are the one who is on the other side, when you are the one who feels different, like a black sheep who's not understood by anyone, when you are the one who doesn't feel like you have a community of people who actually see you and understand things the way that you do. It's hard, and it's important to step out sometimes and say, like, I know this probably makes me sound like such a huge asshole, but like, I just see the world differently, and I see these issues with the blind acceptance and conformity of society, and I'm not here for that. I'm not doing it. This isn't who I am. And that might ruffle feathers with people. It might be difficult for people to understand or accept because they're not going to get you. But it's important to go out there and say it, at least for me, so that other people know that if this is them and this is how you work as well, that you're not alone and it's not a problem with you. You're not broken. You don't have to hide who you are. You don't have to, put yourself in a smaller box. You don't have to pretend to be less than what you are. You don't have to pretend to be a surface level person. But there are going to be times when you probably are going to just have to decide to leave the room that you're in because it may not be the right room for you. And that can be hard sometimes, but you don't have to stay in those rooms all the time. Like, yeah, we all have to suck it up sometimes, for our close social relationships and our family and work and things like that. But in your own personal life, you get to make those decisions. You get to decide where you stay and where you don't stay, where you expend your time and energy and where you don't. the places where you show up and make an effort to put yourself out there in all of your, glory, and try and make those connections with people and see if they work and if there's other people who will relate to you in those manners. And if you're in a place where you just don't think that it's worth making that effort, you don't have to, you don't have to engage, you don't have to talk, you don't have to be there. You can leave. That's a hard thing to say. It's a hard thing to accept sometimes, and it's a hard thing to do in a lot of cases. But what I've learned more and more is that sometimes your life will become a collection of experiences and interactions that feel shallow and unfulfilling and frustrating if you don't start taking those type of actions and advocating for yourself in those ways. And I don't want to live a life that feels like that, right? And I doubt you do either. And so my advice for you, my friends, is to start being more discerning with your energy and your presence in the world. You don't have to be in every space. You don't have to be in every room. You don't have to insert yourself in every conversation if it's not the right one for you, right? If you're someone who feels like you are just much deeper than everyone around you and the conversations that you're having, you can withdraw and you can go try and find a place where you might be seen a little bit more clearly by people who are on your wavelength, who think similarly, who see the world similarly, who have, a similar perspective to you. And that is going to lead to a much more fulfilling life in terms of the energy you expend into it and what you get back, right? You might end up making better friendships and better relationships and having more fulfilling conversations with people, conversations where you can go deep and you can geek out over each other's hyper-focuses and special interests and talk about how it feels to be this, sort of person a little bit apart from society, seeing the things that other people don't see and how to deal with that. Because you're probably someone who feels like they were meant for more or something a little bit bigger. It's a good thing that you're someone who has these perspectives and thinks this way and experiences the world this way, because we need all of us, right? We need the entire spectrum of people. We need all of us to make it all work. And even though sometimes you might feel set apart and like that's a bad thing, it's not. It's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. It means that you're awesome and unique and sovereign and special and creative and curious and probably highly emotionally intelligent. These are the type of people that we need in the world to help society as a whole be more balanced, to have people who are willing to stand up and say, actually, no, that's not how things should go. Someone has to stand up and say, actually, we could do this differently, and this is how we're going to make it happen. We need people who are going to be those innovators and those people who are going to step in and say, actually, I don't think any of you are seeing this clearly. This is actually what's happening. And it needs to change, or it isn't right. Or, a lot of the times these are the people who are leading movements for change. And right now in this society, in this moment in history, wow, do we need change more than ever? Have we gone down a road for a very long time that is leading us into the bad place? And we need some friggin' change like we have not needed before in a very long time. And so please keep that in mind. Instead of feeling bad about yourself, why don't you feel excited about the potential that you have to make waves in the world and to use your strengths and your ability to see things differently to help make changes for the better and inspire people to think about and do things differently in the future so that we can start making some of these changes that are going to make this a better world and a better society. There is nothing wrong with refusing to walk through the world unconsciously. You may not have even had a choice whether or not you saw the world consciously, but being someone who does see the world consciously is a gift. And it's one of these things, like, it's a burden at the same time as being a gift. And I understand that. And so I have compassion for you and love for you. I think that understanding that there are so many more of us out there than you might have realized should hopefully help bolster you, give you a little bit more confidence and a feeling of belonging and hope for everything that you're meant to do in this life. And for the fact that there are communities of people out there that you can connect with, who you can go through this process with, and hopefully maybe do some of this stuff together. Like joining forces. Like think of what we could do if we just got together and like all just boom, like put all of our genius together and we're doing things and it's gonna be great. So yeah. Sorry, I just got really excited about that for a moment. Think of the potential. Anyway, the point being, if you're someone who feels deeper than the world around you, you need to go out and find the places where depth is normal. They're out there, they exist, there are groups, there are programs, academic programs if you're interested in more schooling, there's internet communities, there's fandoms, there's so many different places online where you can go to find like-minded people. And so I feel like, honestly, we're living in a time where it's so much easier now more than ever to make these connections and to find people who are interested in similar things and on similar wavelength than you, that like, I feel like the world is our oyster. We just have to like get out of our shells, open up our little shells, come out and be like, hey world, I'm different. And here I am, splinters and all. That was from Shrek the Musical. Sorry, that was awkward. It just, sometimes song lyrics come to mind when I'm talking, and then I have to sing the song lyric or else it like does a thing in my brain and the loop doesn't close, and then it's not good. So I gotta sing it, sorry. All right, and that's the point of today's video, and thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you found it valuable. I'm going to be linking down below my latest Substack article, which sort of broaches a very similar topic. I hope you guys are going to love it. Give it a read and subscribe to me on Substack and on YouTube, and I will see you again in another video real soon. Bye!